Sound, and you will hear the correct one.
Дорогие друзья, всем добрый день. Сегодня мы начинаем очередной семинар, онлайн-класс «Тайная
Friends, today we start our new class, which will follow the first stanza of the fourth sloka. And I give the floor to the director of Adia Center, Visual Center for Theosophical Studies, Luke Michael Arside, our dear colleague. Luke, you're welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you, and welcome everyone to yet another meeting of the online study class for Madame Blavatsky's The Secret Doctrine in collaboration with the Moscow School of Theosophy. We're delighted to once again have a large participation. We are having a large participation from people all around the world from each of our sessions, including the countries of the Philippines, Russia, Singapore, various parts of Europe, Australia, USA, India, Pakistan, and many other locations as well. The online videos have had more than 4,500 views, and these are available in both Russian and English. Up until this present time, we have currently researched the prologue of the Secret Doctrine, and we've been looking at the first stanza, first sloka, second sloka, and third sloka. And so in our current class, we'll be looking at the fourth sloka, first stanza. There were no seven paths to bliss. There were no great causes of suffering, because there was no one to generate them and seduce them. And so I extend my welcome once again to all participants. Thank you for joining us. And I will now hand the floor back over to the seminar's presenters, Vladimir Yari from the Theosophical Society of Russia, head of the Moscow School of Theosophy, and Eugenia Shabernikova, the project coordinator of the Theosophy Foundation. Thank you.
Приветствую вас всех, слушателей школы семинара.
Thank you, Luke. Welcome to all the participants of our online seminar. I am happy to see you today, and we will start as usual by our theme, first stanza for Sloka, which is as follows. There was no seven paths to bliss. There were no seven reasons for suffering, because there was no one to engender and seduce them. According to our tradition, this thought of the day, that also together with the sloka, and we will see it later, this thought of the day will help us to seek more clearly and more harmonious way to adopt this sloka into our today's state. The thought is the following. As a harder working earth digger gets to the water, same the diligent student reaches the knowledge. This is the thought. And of course, the combination of jhanas. This is the central, the core, and I would say mystical. At the same time, it's a mystical state where we should enter intuitively. This is the century of white dragon, year of white bull, month of red rooster, week of mouse white, and the day of blue goat. So consequently, The thought of the day tells us that you should be diligent and thorough to reach your aim when working and when studying. It is necessary in order to clarify the sense of the thought of the day to apply the new combination of Nidanas according to our date, the 14th of October 2021, and the 21st century, of course. Of course, the month is important, the month of the red cockerel, red rooster, that we combine now with other symbols, and we'll understand the meaning and the reason for these Nidanas. If we imagine a white dragon, and white color is the symbol of ether, ether is the readiness to formulate the thought. This combination of a dragon as wisdom and the element it passes through, this is the ether. Yet, while passing through the element, the wisdom of dragon, the dragon should manifest the form, the shape, according to the thought of the day. Its core, and embody this core into the complete wisdom. This is the sense of a century dragon, but the reason of the century of this dragon, this Nidana, is as a rule has the reason in clashes, and it is the consequence of ignorance. The ignorance, and that's why we're always passive. It is lazy. The reason of every Nidana is engendered by laziness. And the century of the white dragon has this problem as anger. Imagine the whole century, 100 years. And according to the wheel of time, Rajun, which consists of 60 years, it englobes totally the circle. And another little part of this wheel, of this circle. It means 1/3, additional 1/3 of the circle. The volume is important, it's very big. And this burden, this problem is for everybody. Every person has this anger at some point. And it depends, first of all, on this selfishness quality as separation, our separation from the whole in the plane of consciousness. Every personality, we are all individuals, and because we are individuals, when we don't like something, we just get so angry against it. This anger gets triggered, and this detail is exactly what we have to win over in this century. This is the meaning. And when we win it over, we will liberate the wisdom, this dragon of wisdom. Every one of us will understand the most important, the evolutionary process of life, the eternal life in this casual being, which is dragon as being, another quality of dragon as being, existence. It means that it brings formulated entities according to their evolutionary stage of mind development, embodying it into one or another form of existence. We can say that a dragon is a moral medium, the karmic medium. And another very important point, so we understood the reason of Nidana, it's the anger. It means we know what do we have to fight with during the century. It is for the whole humanity. Now we go to the year of ox, bull, white ox. White ox is in the constellation of Libra. It ends this constellation, but also ox ends the direction of space, which is uh, symbolized by a black triangle with the top down, which symbolizes Venus, and Venus symbolizes the highest mind. And this direction of space of the highest mind, where the turn of will by Buddha, Gautama Buddha happens, and Buddha under the Bodhi tree entered the samadhi state in yellow dog. Yellow dog is also in Libra constellation. By this, Gautama Buddha defined the turn of this wheel, and ox, white ox here, the symbol of finalized realization of this beginning and the turn of the wheel of our mind, our consciousness, awakening of our consciousness. This year awakens our consciousness according to the century and the direction of the space. It works this way. We understand that we have to realize ourselves. We have to understand the reason of evil, of ignorance. This is the reason of all evil, the root of all evil, from where these burdens, clochas, came out. And this particular burden, clocha, is ignorance. This is a power that creates samsara according to Maya. And in particular, the year symbolizes the ignorance, engenders the absence of law, the absence of rules. And we have to affirm in ourselves this notion of the fact that we do not know, we're ignorant. We have to affirm the power of aspiring to self-perfectioning, self-development. This is the year that we are having, very concentrated. So we talked about laziness that is engendered by ignorance, our passive mind because of this laziness, our absence of action. This is something that depends on the fact that we do not know what we don't know, but we are sure that we know. And because of this separation that the year shows us, the dragon, white dragon, to together all these symbols, we take them and we realize our aspiration to the absolute truth. This point is extremely important. The absolute truth is something that we have to love. uh, To the love to this has to be born. This point is extremely important, and by this we will cut off our selfishness. Will purify our mind. Next, Nidana is the Nidana of a fire rooster. It's very important. This fire rooster itself has got another burden closer, the problem of uh, something unjust. Those who were born in this Nidana for rooster, and now we are talking about the whole humanity. All humanity has this unjust burden, but we have to win it over. How we will win it over? By justice. It is very important. We all can choose. We are in the position of choice. We are in the constellation of Libra when everything gets weighed. But behind this rooster, there is a power which is Mantrika Shakti. This is the power of Logos. It is the power that aspires and awakens our intuitive nature, which we have as a buddhi thought. This nature is being triggered. Our buddhi, our wisdom, pushes us to apply this wisdom while waiting, scaling injustice and justice. It directs us towards justice, towards the victory over this burden, this darkness around our soul. Also, it's the week of white mouse. Again, this week is in the constellation of Libra. Notice how everything got concentrated in the Libra constellation. It was not random because the turn of the wheel of time towards the direction of space is important on the one hand. On the other hand, the white mouse is finalized karma. And when karma gets finalized, something new has to start. It means we were supposed to affirm ourselves by using all Shakti powers towards this space direction under Virgo constellation. And today we have the blue goat, which tells us what power we have to use in order to, in this week of the white mouse. So this week starts with a pure thought because the goat is the power of Kriya Shakti, which manifests itself as a pure thought. And the pure thought may be born only from altruism, of the altruistic mind. And from this position of in a week time, we will finalize our karma, the karma of our previous state of mind. And in the year of the white ox, we will implement, realize our aspiration towards knowledge by winning the burden, the problem of ignorance. This is how we win over these reasons that are engendered by Nidanas. And Nidanas themselves are connected as 12 reasons of being, of existence, with the cause and effect connection. This connection between cause and effects. Inside, there are reasons, causes, they are our burdens, and the effect, the consequence, is the work of Nidana. Hence, it is dual, and the burden itself, in itself, brings synthetic perception of separation of the individuality towards the world. And in this ignorance, uh, a chain is being built by 12 Nidanas. It makes this chain because it is ignorant. And in Kala Chakra, we have the main Nidana. It is the fire hair. The fire hair, like here, as Buddha told once while he was sitting under the Bodhi tree and he entered the Samadhi state while meditating. And he was meditating 6 days, and at the 7th day he went to Samadhi. While he was meditating over this cause and effect connection, then he saw these 12 nidanas. And because of this, by finding the root of evil, and the root of evil is the fire hair, as it turned out, because the fire hair has the burden evil. This is something evil. Imagine the hair should be knowledge. This is how it is interpreted. Interpret. Uh, Hair means knowledge, but it's also a power, power of knowledge, the power which creates our aspiration to knowledge. Why? Because it wins the burden of evil. It wins it by wisdom. And how can we acquire wisdom? By entering in samsara, and the humanity enters this samsara. The root of evil is the ignorance of the spirit, because the spirit, when it is embodied, reflects the absolute, and the reflection of spirit, the qualities of spirit. But it needs evolutionary process in order to get new feelings in this world by going through different elements, that it acquires experience. And the most important in this reflected spirit, there is all potentiality that aspires us, pushes us to self-development, self-improvement, self-perfectioning, according to the self-perfectioning. This is something that is buddhi in us. The spirit has to create the necessary conductor, the mediator, that Agni that we know. And that is why all the Tian Kogenic hierarchy of the divine entities in the beginning, it has all the power of the law of the laws, which Foucault brought. And Foucault brings the power of self-perfectioning. And because of this, Tian Kogans become consciousness. So this rationality, this sensibility is in theoncogenic nature of the mind. It should has the differentiated power of co-creation. Imagine co-creation. There are no conductors, no mediators, but as future elements of nature, the ether element, everything is uh, built rationally in its differentiation. All the 12 causes on the plane of mind and creativity, on the plane of Tian Kogans, the 12 reasons of existence as Maya are create samsaric future state of mind. This is why samsara is needed, because samsara, indeed, is no different from nirvana in its initiality, but it exists only as an engine for development of the sensible mind in order to manifest the Buddha nature. It means the true emptiness and fullness of the mind. This nature should be manifested. Hence, we have come up to a very important point now. In Buddhism, it is said in the black copybook of Dandaron, it is Soviet, our Soviet representative of Buddhism, who was expelled, who was judged, and he disappeared in prison, passed away, unfortunately. And he describes this reason, this causes for Nidanas. And we know that the teaching tells us about understanding the reasons, but Nidanas are not exactly the reasons, because the reasons are the ignorance or the root of all evil. In other words, our spirit is not perfect with when it manifests the divine nature. That's why we have to perfection it by winning over our ignorance manifested by these burdens in our nature, in our psycho-mental nature. And for this, of course, we have a very important thing is that we are also in the era of Aquarius. We entered this era of Aquarius, which in itself is the spring of consciousness, because Kali Yuga is the winter of consciousness, all we know, but Sati Yuga is the spring of consciousness. So now we live in this unusual time where all the processes are powerfully accelerated. Basically, our evolution now goes so fast. It is incredible. Our mind is being developed incredibly fast. We have the opportunity in only one life to get free from samsara and enter the nirvana state. Now we can do it in the length of only one incarnation, one life. In Kali Yuga, it was difficult, but those who could do it in Kali Yuga, it was very powerful. But now it is possible for all humanity to achieve the nirvana state. And by this system itself, the system of Kali Chakra calendar, is based on Hinayana and Mahayana tradition. Yet Mahayana is a very important tradition, and in Mahayana, Bodhisattva's way is emphasized. And according to this Bodhisattva way, we have to have in our meditative state of contemplation the main idea. We need to join samsara with nirvana. This is the main thought. Our samsaric state of mind, illusionary. When we win over the burdens, we get free from them and we become immortal. This is the core, the sense of the meaning of these different combinations. Different combinations of zodiac signs, the horoscope houses, hierophants, which were called Nidanas. They are the most important in horoscope houses. And all 12 Nidanas that pass through 5 elements, the whole 60-year cycle manifests itself. Very important thought. Manifests by what we transform. We have to transform of our nature of sunk. Our personality becomes pure and it can be merged with individuality. It is a very important moment, very important point to meditate on. Well, let me tell several meanings of these Nidanas, which Yelena Ivanovna Rurik gives us, provides us with in her book, The Way of Spirit. According to the tradition of the reasons for 12 Nidanas, uh, it was reached by Gautama's insight. The problem that had been tormenting him for many years finally found its solution. Gautama reached the source of all evil. So, there are two movements, centrifugal and uh, s- uh, achieving the center. And according to this order, by finding the root of all evil, Gautama found out the following: the 12th Nidana existence is suffering, as it contains old age, death, and 1,000 sufferings. Nidana hair. 11th one. I suffer because I am born. Nidana tiger. 10th. I am born because I belong to the world of existence. Nidana dragon. 9th. I am born because I nourish existence inside myself. Nidana snake. I nourish it because I have desire. Nidana horse. I have desire because I have sensation. Nidana goat. I sense because I touch upon the external world. Nidana monkey. If this touching is done through action by my six senses. Nidana rooster. Fourth, my feelings are manifested because being a personality, I oppose myself to the impersonal. Nidana dog. Third, I am personality because I have consciousness. Full of this personality consciousness. Nidana boar. Second, this consciousness was created as a result of my previous existences. Nidana mouse. And vice versa. These existences gloomed my mind as I didn't know. Nidana ox. So this 12-fold formula can be enumerated in reverse order as well. First, avidya, gloominess, ignorance, ox. Samskara, karma, mouse. Third, vijnana, consciousness, boar. Fourth, kama rupa, the shape, the sensory and the non-sensory dog. Fifth, shadayatana, the six transcendent bases of feelings, rooster. Sixth, sparta, sense of touch, monkey. Seventh, vidana, sensation, goat. Eighth, trishna, thirst, lust, horse. Ninth, upadana, attraction or attachment, snake. The 10th, kava, existence, dragon. 11th, deity, birth, tiger. 12th, jara, old age and death, hare. So this is the consequence of Nidanas, which we have to, for ourselves, uh, not only by our rational thinking, we also need to abstract from this and perceive them mystically, understand them by a mystic, intuitive way of understanding, of knowledge. Otherwise, we will not be able to reveal our nature. On the one hand, when we reveal the reason of Nidana, the causes, the burdens, we understand the causes and the reasons of our samsara, our soul, our ignorance, all our incarnations. From we understand what happens, what are the causes and effects. This what means to understand the causes. At Nidanas, basically, they are the manifestations, the events, like worlds, like persons, like a human. If we were born, for example, in dragon, so all 12 Nidanas will be manifested through this Nidana, through our understanding of the world, our mindset of a dragon. All Nidanas will get around it, and independently, wherever we live, whatever times are, we will project everything through our principle of the year of our uh, birth. Also, we have the week of our birth, our birth, day of our birth. All these combinations, the spiral or the loop, like Matryoshka, the Russian doll, we will manifest our principle. How we manifest it? Our nature is diverse. How many differentiations? How as many opinions, impressions we have, and according to this, we are getting deeper and deeper into understanding the essence of things through our principle, through our nidana, and that's why we may have different according to the shapes, forms, manifestations, but not as in their core essence is always the same. But we manifest it according to the nidana, which is our main nidana, like the year of our birth. It is the principle, the main nidana, because it is the manifestation of this world. It is something that brings the most important meditative quality, contemplative quality. This nidana is the most important, and it's merging with the cross of life. If we take dragon, in front of it we have a dog in the cross. See, then the next principle, goat and ox. This is the cross which brings all these casualties. Goat and dragon is life. Dog for dragon is the response of joy, and the ox is immortality. These four main, we may say, ways along which a born person in precise nidana is moving, going, and we always have our main representatives in life. For dragon is a goat, dog, and ox. These principles are the most important for him, nourishing the understanding of life, the perception of life, and the mindset by manifesting these qualities and these nidanas. Also, there is a triangle of the spirit of the century itself. And here we'll get white dragon, white monkey, and a white mouse. And in this movement, counterclockwise, the century is rotating. So the previous century, the 20th century, the symbol was the white mouse. The karma was being finished. 21st century, dragon, and 22nd century will be the one of the white monkey. And this combination of the spirit of the century, there are the laws of karma, harmony, the symbol of monkey, and the dragon, symbol of wisdom. When all these three combinations will be reflected by us, when we understand it, when we fully realize them as the beginning, we understand the nature of spirit in us. It is extremely important. The spirit of the century is something that produces all these perturbations. If we remember the 20th century, there were always wars, this finalizing of the fight of war. It happened in the century of the white mouse. And in this century, we still have to achieve wisdom. We have to come up to wisdom, to come over this separation. And the Aquarius era tells us about it. Cooperation is the task of this era, the era of Satya Yuga, or the spring of consciousness. We need to learn how to cooperate, to communicate, to learn communication which would have the atmosphere without any anger or irritation or negative feelings, and it is being won over by light, by warmth, by compassion, the feeling of compassion. All of us should acquire and accumulate this feeling of compassion, because otherwise we'll not be able to win over the causes, the burdens of Nidanas. It would not be possible. And that's why bodhisattvas and their way, they work on accumulation of this compassion. It is a conscious feeling living through moments and compassion towards all the living beings, because they are representative of the divine nature. All of them are representatives of the divine nature, and they bring alaya vidana, so called, the pure spirit of the consciousness. All of them bring this consciousness. Only before the human, it's the instinct which rules our consciousness. And in the human being, consciousness should rule over instincts by intuition and compassion. When we achieve this state of compassion, this attitude, a mother attitude to everything alive, all beings and all alive beings, like the mother of the world, her attitude, how she accepts her sons in herself, when, of course, the person has the same feeling of compassion, then they can achieve and accept the state of nirvana. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Today is the day, the energies that we have nowadays, and the Sloka and the stance that we are discovering today are going to be in accordance with the Nidana we have just studied. As of recently, we received a couple of questions that were quite similar to one another from our participants of the seminar. The questions are how to write and how to interpret the Secret Doctrine in the right way. I think this question is prompted by the fact that the language of the doctrine is quite complicated, and the energy it has within it, this doctrine, is quite hard to interpret. And we need to have a certain approach to work with this material. When we change our attitude, first, we change our attitude towards ourselves, then to our lives, then to people around us. By doing that, we change our attitude to the books we read and materials we work with. By touching the Secret Doctrine, we have admiration and gratitude to the author who created these great masterpieces. And this reverence for Blavatsky, she's the author of the fundamental scientific work, The Secret Doctrine, our concentration is increased. And when that happens, it allows us to look behind those simple letters and words on paper. We can read between the lines, or we can see and interpret the space which is filled with the secret doctrine, and that its secret meaning, which has to be discovered. So we all have to be researchers to uncover the true meaning. There have been schools to study different directions in scientific thought. And there was the school of Ms. Blavatsky as well. And there they talked about different issues and questions. That school and the direction of that school is quite hard to study. This is something sacred, something discreet, which cannot be understood by masses. This is a very intimate process when you work with the material and you gain your own understanding of it. Of course, there are classical tools and methods that are being used at different schools. When studying the materials, we use our discoveries, our thoughts, and our ideas, and we put them down on paper. We do that in a structured way. By doing that, we structure the material we learned. So we develop a certain system to go by, a certain structure to be guided by ourselves. Who is the main assistant there? Who's going to help you to study the doctrine? Those are the Genesis planes. No matter what we think about certain definitions, the planes, the fundamental system are the main basis, the main foundation that allows us to exist within. So those main nerves, those muscles of the thoughts we have, and then we're going to build on muscles with the help of this foundation. And these muscles are going to be represented by our understanding. When we read any work by Ms. Blavatsky and the Secret Doctrine, what we have to do, we have to think about the plane that these actions take place. And then we have to understand what's happening on each plane, what are the powers in play there. And if we do so, the system will help us to attain confidence. Then we won't feel shaky and we will have our own understanding. We have the certain foundation and we will understand how the things happened. And this is a very important aspect. Today's Sloka says, the 7 ways to bliss were not. The great causes of misery were not, for there was no one to produce and get ensnared by them. The method which we use nowadays to understand this concept is the method to reconcile the opposites. To understand what happened, we need to go back and to look at what happened. Then causes and consequences interchangeably make chaining possible. At the Stanza itself and Xian text, if we go back when studying this text, there was no ensnarement, there was no yur, there was no birth, there were no reasons to suffer. There was no one to be produced by them. There was no bliss, and there were no ways to bliss. So at the very beginning of Xian, we got outside of this entire form and we achieved something new. Then we went back and we reconciled the opposites in one concept. So today, I would like to draw your attention to some of the key aspects that Blavatsky gives in the comments. She gives explanation what those reasons are, how they started, who gets ensnared by them, and who produces them. All these key aspects start with the definition of Maya. We received a lot of comments about Maya. So what I would suggest doing, I will tell you a little bit about Maya so that you can remember what it is. Then we're going to look at the system, which is going to uncover the Sloka. I will show you the presentation and cover you and guide you through the whole process. You will see how the process of the creating a thought develops, and maybe one of those methods of studying and interpreting such a great masterpiece as the Secret Doctrine would prompt someone of us, and it would touch this nerve within ourselves that would release this happiness of this deep understanding. When you finally see that all the puzzles come together, then you feel warmth. And when you feel this warmth, then you feel alive. And then you understand that there is the meaning for life. There is the reason to exist. And I suggest us to be happy and to cherish the discoveries that we're going to make together today. So Maya is the aspect of Sath. We know that Sath is Genesis, which exists forever as Mantavara and Mahapralaya. We know that Nirvana, it is also Maya if compared to the Absolute. Maya is the cause of differentiation. Blavatsky mentions the fact that Maya can be a cause of differentiation if it can be the reason of anything. So Maya is rather the manifestation. So all the manifestations carry the aspect of Maya. So everything that exists around us is not absolute, it's always relative. So Maya can be identified as Prakriti, which is manifested nature and matter. We know that Maya is the sum of all these beings. So Maya, as well as Nidanas, are the causes of existence, which lead us to consequences which are born by chaining. Our understanding, our perception of ego, of any individual, when he or she believes that they're a separate being, this is the manifestation of Maya. When we think of ourselves as a separate being, which is independent from the infinite and eternal, and the universe was the only being of the divine thought, and there was no 7 ways to bliss, which is an absolute being in itself, which did not exist. A person can free himself from suffering of birth and even from the false bliss of Devachan by only one way, by attaining wisdom and knowledge. That's why the knowledge that we attain are going to be the only way out. That's the only victory that our spirit can produce in the fight against illusion and ignorance. Only by doing that, we can dispel the fruit of illusion and ignorance. Everything that exists has no absolute, but rather relative reality. So this is the visibility which the hidden nominous response for a given observer depends on the cognitive abilities of this observer. All the things are relative. Why? Because the observer itself or himself is the only reflection of all the things that exist, which are shadows. Shadows of everything that exists. That's why all the things that he or she comprehends are real to him or her as he or she is. But through our development, we comprehend that in the stages which we have been through have been actual shadows that we took for realities. How do we attain this level? We can do that only but reach an absolute mind and merge our mind with it. And only by doing that, we can free ourselves from Maya. Maya is everywhere, where there is a beginning and an end. And as everything is an aspect of the eternal, that's just the aspect of the eternal nature. So these aspects I would like to consider today in the course of my presentation. I'm going to talk about Maya, illusion, ignorance, human, Nidanas, the 7 ways of getting free from delusions. So what are these 7 ways to bliss? How do they look like? The 7 ways to bliss is a particular capacity to learn by the student. So the more knowledge you get, the deeper it becomes. And the deeper you delve into the essence of occultism. So let us now consider the first slide, and we try to trace how we open these keys and how deep we can go into the essence. 7 ways to bliss according to the planes of the being. First, the single to the physical one. This is the first 7-ray diagram. So this is the first 7 folds. The second 7 folds consist of the first plane of prototypes that goes down to the physical one and goes back to the plane of prototypes, which results in the 7 folds. Then the last one, we have the ascend, and then it goes down to 3 connected 7 folds, which are interconnected. And here we have the sequence of numbers. How does it happen? If we put together all these numbers, we will end up with one number, which is 84, which consists of 12. What 12 means here? Let's take into account 12 Nidanas. As for we find ourselves in this Sloka. So what's 7 in this case? 7 consists of interconnectivities of 7 numbers. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If we sum all of these numbers, then we get 28. We know that 10 symbolizes motion. Then the 7 ways of bliss did not exist. They were not because there was no motion in these directions. What does 10 stand for? It stands for the Sephora or the Ether, which is the symbol for motion. The 7-ray star is also a path to bliss, as well as the other star with the dot in the middle. 7 ways to bliss can be seen on each plane of genesis, which can be achieved through learning Nidanas. 12 Nidanas are the main reasons which are caused by the karmic laws, and they are the most sensitive, and they provoke the most sensitive reaction, which becomes a consequences. Only we ourselves, but all the visible and invisible universe, all the manifestations, all the consequences are the manifestation on one eternal entity, which has been there and will always exist. This is a beginningless unity, which will always be here. It will never be changed. This is the absolute, and its reflection, that's the state of space and things that can prompt change or consequences or Nidana. Maya, as a manifestation, wakes up Nidanas. It awakens the strength for manifestation. If Nidana is a power, and any power, it is the transition from one state to another, how does it happen? It actually expands, expels, and pushes out the state to transform. Let us see the way it happens. So here you can see 2 parts came together and they formed a unity. And as a result, it pushes out the new momentum to go on to the next stage. As a result, you develop the certain sequence of changes. So let me tell you how they develop from the first string till the last string, from 0 to 12 and from 12 to 0. Now we're going to talk about this chaining of the opposites. Nidanes start with the first one, jati, which is birds, then the next one, which is the hare, then dragon, then snake, horse, Vedana goat, Sparsa monkey, Chedatana rooster, Namarupa dog, Vidana boar, Samskara mouse, and Avidya ox. Now let's take them in the reverse order, and then you will see how the ox, which had the different number and different meaning, changes its essence. The tiger, which used to be first, becomes 12. Vidya, which was number 12, becomes number 1. So we start with ignorance. Nidanes, the way they see them now, are located from top to bottom and from bottom to top. Now, each Nidane corresponds to the sum of connections of chaining. If we take them from the top to the bottom and the other way around, you will see that number is always the same, no matter what components you sum up. So we started with a tiger, and the tiger is the last one on the list, which gives us 13. Then we have a hare, 12 plus 11, and as a result, we get 13. Then we have 3 and 10, dragon, and it also 13. So the pattern repeats itself throughout the whole scheme. At the end, we get an ox, which also sums up to 13. So what is 13? This is the manifestation of the eternal state. If every Nidane is 13, which is 4, it is the manifestation of the eternal state. If it happens, then the fourth dimension appears. So 1 in 3 becomes the center or the salt. So the chaining through the centrifugal power gives us the power which produces the momentum to go on to the next stage. So this is the process of pushing out that I showed you on the previous slide. Centripetal force opens new opportunities, then centrifugal force opens other opportunities, and when they come together, they provide abilities. So the human consciousness that goes from top to bottom, when it comes to showing the spirit, form the spirit, it gives us the chance from the most concentrated state to go on to the next plane. And then the matter becomes inspired. And then we get abilities. And when it all comes together, we acquire new abilities. So we put together 2 chains of these Nidanes. It clockwise is centripetal and otherwise it's centrifugal. We enter the state of opportunities and of the center. This is a synthesis of our understanding. And then sufferings disappear. At this center, this synthesis, when all merge together, the evil and the good disappear, and there is only one united state that appears. As a result, we have 2 opposites, and we have 6 pairs of Nidanes, which show how the thought unfolds itself, how we use opposites and how we approach the center. Now, I will show you Nidanes, which are further away from one another, and we will try to approach the center. In the Secret Doctrine, there are 6 ways or 6 sounds, as Ms. Blavatsky puts it. When 6 sounds or 6 steps were heard, the apostle prohibited to put them down. It was said to conceal them until the right time comes. And when the 7th sound comes, then there is no time. So 6 syntheses or 6 elements coming together give birth to 7. 7 is the state of coming onto the next stage. So let us look at 6 Nidanes, 6 pairs, which can open the way for the new state, the 7 states. that the state where time has no power over humans. So we are going to talk about the key moments of 6 pairs of Nidanes. The first pair, this is the first and the 12th Nidane, tiger and ox, birth and ignorance. So ignorance stimulates birth. If I'm not aware because I didn't know, and you're born to know yourself and this world, you have to find who you are. The second pair, the second and the 11th Nidanes, those are hair and mouse, knowledge and accumulation. Accumulation of knowledge. We should accumulate knowledge and not anything else. The third pair is dragon and bull, wisdom and manifestation, manifestation of wisdom. So we must express or manifest wisdom, which shows our consciousness. The fourth pair, this is the dog and the snake, personality and reason. Personality affirming reason, a person must become reasonable. The fifth pair is horse and rooster, law and glory. Glorious law, as an example. Glory is the manifestation of law. This is the way glory shows itself. And the sixth Nidane that we're going to consider, that's good, love and monkey harmony. Love brings harmony. Love has this harmony as its property. Harmony is a manifestation of love. So through harmony, we show love. So when we merge together two centripetal and centrifugal forces, then we attain balance. Disbalance, on the other hand, is something that impedes our development, that provides a barrier or obstacle. Obstacles disappear when there is permeability. Permeability or merging shows us how the nature manifests itself. When we go deeper into the essence, we see the consequences. And what's so special about Theosophy and the Secret Doctrine by Blavatsky is the fact that we gain the knowledge that allow us go deeper into the essence of matter. So when the phenomena is defined by a term, it becomes stationary, meaning that it gets a concrete definition. So phenomena is something concrete, something that happens and has its certain qualities. Any phenomena has a set of qualities or properties. When it's not defined, it remains flexible. So it has something and it is nothing. You cannot say when it happened or why it happened. It's just a phenomena in itself. Theosophical terms are flexible. They are not phenomenal or stationary. They're hidden in themselves. And one should penetrate down to the essence to reveal or to understand a theosophical term. This is why we have to interpret and understand the theosophical terms rather than using other terms. So we have to keep them as nominal, and keep the essence of those terms. Also, this is the seventh principle of our universe. This is the unity. When the whole cycle comes together, when through this space, we achieve the new ray. On the previous slide, you saw the dark background. There was no culmination. And then when the seventh ray appeared and the culmination of the seventh cycle appeared, then through the space, we saw the white ray. Ray is the new ray. 7 ways to bliss, when come together, give us the great opportunity to explore the new state. And this state is the end of sufferings. This is the state of bliss, the state of unity. When consequences and causes disappear, then they come together, they merge. But there is one condition. It's only possible when these conditions are realized. How do we provide for such conditions? A human being is responsible for doing that. The future is built in the past. In the present, it's only adjusted. And this very adjustment of the present or the creation of perfect condition is exactly the ways to bliss or the single. When we achieve equilibrium, the sufferings disappear. because those who are disturbing the balance disappear. Who are those? Those are Nidanas, hate, hatred, lies, and so on. So those are the obstacles that we create by ourselves. These are the factors that contribute to disbalance. The skill or the ability to put together all these skills is the opportunity for us to show and to uncover new skills. This is the skill to see the essence, to reconcile the opposites. Those who can reconcile the opposites have this ability to synthesize and to achieve the beauty and to contribute to the balance. And by doing that, you can overcome time. This is the emanation of word. The plane of mind and creativity reveals beauty and harmony, which is creative force. This is the fifth principle of the creative force and harmony, which are the main aspects of animation of forehead, which is the universe of fire. Here we talk about harmony, which is the manifestation of the creative force. What can impede the emanation of a heart? This is the fact that ether comes into our lives. So what disturbs this balance? The ethereal substance begins to thicken to such a degree of density that the ascending and descending impulse movement stops. Impulse, this is the creative signal. This is the force of creativity, which gets blocked and cannot project its rays and cannot be seen. It gets separated, and as a result, we have disbalance or a consequence. This density, which thickens to such an extent that this ray can no longer penetrate this darkness, this is the manifestation of this very word. This is the obstacle which makes us less sensitive to the emanation of the heart. So as a result, we have a consequence which becomes disharmony. This is an attempt of the nature to regain the harmony and the balance broken. Let us look at forehead. Here we have movement, because everything starts with the movement. Movements gives birth to light, then we have sound, and as a result, sound produces heat. Heat produces coupling, and the coupling creates electricity, and as a result, we have magnetism. This is the seven-ray star, which shows how movement, light, magnetism, sound, coupling, heat, and electricity interact with one another. Shows us how ethers enters our lives. So where there is a lack of movement, lack of light, sound, heat, coupling, electricity, and magnetism, gradually they all disappear. So the movement, sound, light, coupling, all are gone. They disturb the balance and disrupt harmony. There were no great reasons to suffer because there were nobody to produce them and to be ensnared by them, but who give birth to these Nidanas. This is Maya. Nidana produces Nidanas, and it awakens our consciousness. And this is the person who hosts these illusions and how these illusions come about. Once we separate ourselves from the unity, from the eternity, we open the door to illusions and reasons to suffer. Nidanas come about as the moral factors. Blavatsky put it as moral factors, which are a very precise definition, which are fed by our illusions. And illusions lie in the root of all the evil. Now, let us look in greater detail, which Sumaroma gave us about different stars. So stars shows us the certain places where causes and nidanas exist and appear. Here we have their esoterical meaning. Here we have 12 meanings: Mesha Aries, Vrishabha Taurus, Mesana Gemini, Katara Cancer, Sima Leo, Kanya Virgo, Tula Libra, Virshika Scorpio, Campio Sagittarius, Makara Capricorn, Kumbhala Aquarius, and Mina Pisces. All these zodiac signs in themselves have more than one meaning. They have many meanings. They show certain properties and evolution when our material thoughts got their manifestation and began their existence. So when we understand that everything starts with Aries, then the evolution started is continued till the last stage, which is Pisces. This 12 zodiac signs, as a result, defined the movement of the evolutional development of our universe. Ms. Blavatsky, in her book, mentions that we have to turn the key 7 times. Why does she mention that? Why does she mention this action? There is actually a deep philosophy to it, which lies in the foundation of this zodiac signs. When you turn the key 7 times, it means to go through the 7 ways to bliss. Only the last 7th turn will unlock all 7 ways to bliss. Subarova has a Sanskrit meaning of zodiac signs that have many meanings. He gave a brief definition. Let us take a look at how he describes Aries. This is one of the synonyms of the word Aja. Aja literally means which has no birth and is applied to the eternal Brahman in certain portions of the Upanishads. This is the first definition. Then the next, which is Rishabha, Taurus, which is Pranava. This is the state of combining different states. The next one is Mithuna, which is in the constellation of Gemini. This is the sign which is intended to represent first androgyne, which is bisexual, Sema, Adama, Kadmon. And from this 2 gender sephira, the Katkara, the 4th essence, comes to the 4, which is Cancer. This sign is divided pranara into 4 separate entities. The 4 states of Brahma, or the 4 aspects of Parabrahman, this is the sign which concludes this cycle, because it's the 4th sign. And then we go into the next constellation, which is Sigma Leo. This sign is intended to define 5 Brahmas. This is the 5th sign, which shows the Brahmas and united the 3 following signs in a single being, leads to destruction of phenomenal universe and to recognition of pure spirit, while their division has the opposite effect. Jivatma, in the microcosmos, or the spiritual essence, inspires the microcosm of the universe. This differentiation shows the state of one entity. Genesis appeared from nothing. This state of the Leo, of the solar spirit, which goes and brings light. This is the light which inspires. Who are we? Sometimes teachers ask. Leos, Shambhala, or the place where great teachers reside, which promotes our evolution. Blavatsky worked in this sector. The 6th sector is Virgo or Kanya, represents Shakti. It indicates that there are 6 primary forces in nature. The 6 powers, or their combination, are represented in the astral light. This is Parashakti, the dragon of great power, which shows warmth and light, heat, Gnama Shakti, and snake, the intellectual power, in Shaya Shakti, this is a willpower. These are our muscles or states, the way we formulate our thoughts and how we direct them. Then the next one is how horse is symbolized, Kriya Shakti, that's the power of our thoughts. which has ethereal directions. It has the potential to bring about great results thanks to its energy. This is a unique power which shows pure thoughts. Kundalini Shakti, which is universal, it includes two main powers of attraction and disattraction. Matrita Shakti, this is the power of letters, speech, music, and sounds. This is the power of the world itself. The main element here, this is the power of the name. The main element of Mantra Shakti is the Logos. So the astral light is the seventh state, and this seventh state goes through all the entities in this universe. This is how seven principles come about and which manifest themselves in each entity. The next sector is Tula, Libra. It's represented by 36. 36 is intended to represent 12 multiplied by 3. And then the eighth sign here, which is Vrishchaka or Scorpio. This sign is intended to show the sun. The sun, when it is in the sign of the Scorpio, is called Vrinivishnu. This is the sign that shows Vishnu or universe. So Scorpion is the part when the spirit of the human appears, because Vishnu shows something that can expand. Something expand, just like our universe. Something changes by expanding, and we achieve the opposite state. So it's all-inclusive, all-concluding power, just like our universe. The next sign is Dhanus, which is Sagittarius. It is equivalent to 9. The sign, therefore, clearly indicates the 9 Brahmas, the 9 Prajapatis that assist the Sigmuras in constructing the material universe. We know that the sign of Sigmuras is 10, while after the movement happened. But before that, there were 9 that generated this power. Farhat is also symbolized by 9. This is how this last 10th symbol came about. This is the geometry of the universe. Then Makara, or Capricorn, means pentagon. This is where the high spirits want to get. This is something that stays for the heavens. This sign stands for 5. Makara means hand. Makara stands for the triangle or 5-ray star, which symbolizes 5 limbs of a person. From the objective point of view, microcosm is represented by nothing else but the human body. Makara can be seen as the embodiment of the microcosm and the microcosm at the same time, as the objects of our eternal perception. So Makara means hand, or 5. Then we move on to the next constellation, which is Aquarius, Kumbha. If we transfer it to numbers, we come up with number 14 as an equivalent, and we can infer that it indicates the special location of 14 slokas. What's 14? This is the unity of 2 sevenfolds. So Aquarius was the stage that allows us to go on to the next level. This is the culmination of 2 sevenfolds. And then the 12th sign, Pisces, Mina, means the 5 elements. Cosm, at the very beginning, had its surface. Blavatsky says that there was a certain surface that was covering our mysteries, and these mysteries are directly connected with our zodiac signs. These covers or the surfaces will never be revealed unless there is the actual reason for that. In Russian, we say that you should not uncover the truth in front of those who do not deserve it. That's why it's very important to revere the study and to respect the eternity that this study shows us insight into. We have to be serious, go about studying these sacred meanings, and then we can study Nidanas, which gives the meaning of these signs. Here you can see the main idea of these 12 zodiac signs. Usumarov says the following. Here he points out the key aspects. He says that the self-existent or eternal Brahma is Aries and Pranava is Taurus. The androgyn Brahma on the bisexual Sephira Adam Kadmon is Gemini. The sacred pentagram or the 4 matras of Pravana is Cancer. The 5 Brahmas, the 5 Brahmas which comply Jivahma is Leo. The astral light or the Holy Virgin, 6 forces is symbolized by Virgin, the 6th sign. Then we have 33 Taurus, born of a diva Libra. The universe in thought is the microcosm, which looked at the form of a subjective point of view, which is Scorpio. The 9th sign is Prajapatis, the assistance of the Digmurus, Sagittarius. The shape of the material universe is a Capricorn. This is the representation of Demiurgus. In this manifestation, it shows the 12-fold structure. The next one is Aquarius, and then the last one, Pisces, which symbolizes 5 elements, which corresponds to 5 elements. This is the way our universe came about from the very beginning till modern days. These are 12 signs which contain 12 Nidanas and 12 reasons to suffer. The last chapter was not written as the 7th way to bliss has not yet started. If we go back to the 12th sign of Pisces, that shows 5 ways to stop suffering, we can suggest that the 6th way is the 6th way to find a way to bliss. And you can proceed by doing that. Here you can see 5 ways. We have suffering, which is a dense plane. This is the physical plane of suffering. Then we have the reasons for those sufferings, are consequences and chains, then the end of those sufferings. Then we have the destruction of the causes of existence and the approach to the great truth. That's the prototype plane. And the last plane is the plane of spirit, where there is an approach to the great truth. Through the plane of prototypes, you can see 2 strings here, which approach the plane of the truth or the spirit. And in the comments, Blavatsky says that the sum or combination of Nidanas is based on 4 truth. Let us try to analyze that. What is the combination? Combination is the unity of Nidanas. We know that we have 12 Nidanas, and as a result, we have 3 of them. Then we have to add 4 truth, and as a result, you get 7 paths to bliss. So the combination of Nidanas is based on 4 truth. Those are, namely, 7 paths to bliss, which did not exist. 4 truth are 4 planes of being: plane of mind and creativity, material and educational plane, the physical plane, which symbolizes own path to bliss. There were no reasons to suffer. There were no 7 ways to bliss, no 4 planes of existence. There were no differentiation between the illusions and reality, and there were no division. So there was unity. There was no split between the matter and the spirit. If we look at the plane of prototype, and the plane of prototype disappears and the plane of existence manifests itself, then the spirit of a human being, by going through all the planes, achieves its essence. So as a result, it comes back to itself and it becomes free. Then the 7 ways to bliss are unlocked. The subtle world merges with the dense world equally among the equal ones when the condition is fulfilled. the condition is to be equal among the equal ones, since only the equals can be united with the equal level of consciousness, of deepness of one's understanding. That's why the human spirit has to go deep inside into its own essence, go through all the planes, and then you generate flame. And by doing that, you regain your freedom, and the spirit comes back to itself. It becomes beautiful and free. The eternal spirit remains untouchable. It remains integral in all the worlds and its own world. For it is present where it is absent, and absent where it is present. It's simple, complicated, and great. Thank you. So if we now go back to the Dia itself, if we go through all the 7 ways of bliss, if we look at great reasons, causes to suffer, who produces them, who gets ensnared by them, then I suggest us to listen to Dia itself, listen to the text. The 7 ways of bliss were not. There were no reasons to suffer, since there was no one to produce or to get ensnared by them. This spirit, which was absent where it is present and present where it is absent, this sensation of something existing, something that has always been around and will always be there, this hope and this indication of 7 ways of a way to stop sufferings, which will become the culmination of development of the human consciousness. The 6 and the 7 races will show us this destruction of causes to suffer. I mean the 6 and the 7 ways. We are aware that within the big cycle, there are small cycles. One big definition is comprised of small definitions. That's why everything equals to everything. That's why when you give definitions to big cycles or big terms, by doing that, we define for ourselves how these manifestations take place in our everyday life, how Nidanas manifest themselves. Vladimir Vasilievich, in his presentation, said that the era that we're living through opens opportunities to get rid of our sufferings. This is a genius idea indeed. So the dynamic of this time, the karma itself starts to renew itself, and the humanity becomes denser. Everything comes together, not even in the space, but here on Earth, which shows the evolution of the human consciousness. And as a result, the human being is capable of getting rid of suffering. This is the chance we have to become pure. You have to say to yourself, I can change to the better, I can become a better human being. I can feel this love, unconditional love. The unconditional love is the state where you feel the warmth and the love. This is the united light you have, and it is there for everybody and for you as well. When this combination of the opposite happens, this is the manifestation of love. Why do we suffer? When it happens, we do not suffer at all. And the time stands still for us, because the creative potential, the creative power, the emanation of Vihara and those impetuses, those impulses, they produce thoughts. Those thoughts generate light, and that light is endless indeed. 7 ways to bliss were not, but they will be when the universe forms itself, When it reaches the densest point, then it becomes thin and then disappears within the non-existing. Thank you very much for your patience. Thank you very much for following our ideas and thoughts that you may find contradictory, but they are ideas, and you yourselves can become an architect of your own thoughts. You can create your own thoughts. And if discerning such thoughts and patterns generate light, love, and warmth, then it is the truth. Then those ways to bliss exist within ourselves, because each human being is of sevenfold nature. I will ask Vladimir Vasilievich to conclude today's presentation to talk about shlokas, and then we'll give the floor to our colleague, Mr. Ironside, for him to share his insights as the conclusion of our seminar.
Well, as I've mentioned, that 7 ways to bliss means to create pure conductors. And it is the nature of Tian Kogans. It means in every person, hierarchy of Tian Kogan nature exists, it is present as intention to aspiration, to impulse for self-perfectioning, for self-development. This is the role of Tian Kogans, and the role of Tian Buddhas is way higher. Do you understand that? If we take the planes of existence, just try to imagine this image, because you've seen the planes of existence. Take the planes of prototypes and fold it, and you will see that the world is dense, the constellation of Pisces. It merges with the world without forms. These are their points. These are the joints between samsara and nirvana. As a matter of fact, they're merging, and this folded part is nirvana of the prototypes. Thank you very much. Luke Michael Ironside, you're welcome. The floor is yours. Please express your opinion, sum up the ideas and thoughts that we expressed today. Maybe you've got some questions or other comments. Please, you're welcome.
Well, I'd like to first of all thank the course leaders for once again a very informative, interesting, and yet also extremely clear overview of the sloka that we examined today. And something which is becoming clearer and clearer as we progress through this first section of the Secret Doctrine is that the language employed, the language used within the Secret Doctrine is particularly complicated. It is very complex. It draws from a variety of languages in order to express ideas which are overall quite abstract and esoteric and very difficult to place in words. And this is the nature of esoteric ideas, that esoteric ideas simply cannot be easily expressed in words. They transcend the limitations of language, and as a result of that cannot be easily encapsulated in language which has evolved to deal with finite existence and with the maya of separation and so on. So esoteric ideas simply cannot be easily captured in language, and the Secret Doctrine attempts to do so, but of course in attempting to take esoteric ideas and put it into language, we're left with something which is rather complex and needs a lot of reflection and study in order to unlock the hidden gems of wisdom within. Language is limited, and therefore in the Secret Doctrine, symbolism is often employed, and that's what we've been looking at a lot in these online classes the symbolism of the secret doctrine. And so as students, we need to adapt our approach and our attitude, as the secret doctrine cannot be read as one would read a novel or a textbook at university or school. It is rather a meditative and transformative experience, which requires continued and dedicated study and reflection. In the process of the study, we reach certain points at which things suddenly relate and make sense. We're able to connect A and B, and suddenly an idea which was previously incomprehensible is clarified. This is a normal part of the process of our development along the esoteric path, and it is by both group and individual study that we may arrive at a deeper understanding. So some of the key ideas that we explored in today's session are that Theosophy presents a fundamental distinction between the relative, on the one hand, Maya or illusion, and the absolute, Para-Brahman. Although this distinction is not absolute and the distinction itself is relative, which is a very interesting seeming paradox, which is not a paradox on a deeper analysis. And so a comprehension of this distinction between the relative and the absolute is essential to approaching the study of the secret doctrine. The 7 ways or paths of attainment refer to the journey of the monad. That's our essential nature, our true or highest self, to the bliss of non-existence, which is absolute being, existence, and consciousness. So another really interesting seeming paradox in the sense that non-existence is also absolute existence. And that sounds like something which doesn't make sense, but Theosophy is full of these wonderful paradoxes. During pralaya, that period of unmanifestation and sleep, there being nothing to attain, these paths of attainment do not exist on the manifest plane. They exist rather only in the logoic thought. This is something we mentioned in our last meeting, the power of our thinking, the power of thought, because our human thoughts are simply manifestations of the logoic thought. They're a reflection of the thought of God, if you like. And so the great causes of misery and suffering can also have no existence in the state of pralaya. The 12 Nidanas or causes of being operating only within the realm of Maya or illusion. And so in this state of absolute being, there simply is no suffering. There is no misery. And this is what Gautama Buddha said as well. Gautama Buddha stated that life is suffering. And this is life only in the manifested sense, not life in the absolute sense. So perhaps we could say relative life is suffering. Absolute life is free from suffering. And this is an idea that we find encapsulated in the religious philosophies of all cultures and all times. And therefore, a couple of questions we can perhaps take away from this. If misery and suffering do not exist within the state of pralaya, and it is therefore relative and not absolute, what is the relation of misery to manifested life, and how can we, along this path, the spiritual path that we are walking, release ourselves from the cycles of misery? And further, how can the study of Theosophy provide us with the tools to better understand and regulate our thoughts, and thereby to create our reality? Maybe those are a couple of thoughts we can take away from the session. So I'll hand back over to the course leaders and thank you once again.
Dear Luke, Director of Center for Virtual Studies of Theosophy, thank you very much. This key point that you sum up in the end, they are extremely important for our listeners and for ourselves. It's as if we start to go through them again. It is like big important marks which make it visual. It is like a forehead loop or spiral which explains one event, explain other events. And the questions of compassion or suffering, the suffering was during Malaya and in Malantara. These questions are very deep, very profound, and I'm sure Vladimir Vasilyevich has something in the sea to impress us. So let us give him the floor and see what can he, how can he share. Well, if we apply to the suffering which is engendered by Maya, we know that there is Mahamaya, then everything gets to its place. That is Mahamaya is the power of evolution, the power of development, power of something new, something creative, something that is being developed. Without this power of Maya, as you know, from the very beginning, from the absolute chaos, the state of Makapralaya, this inspiration was produced, and all these absolute differentiated state that Mahamaya name for it, it starts to get together according to its hierarchical essence. All these potentialities get together, which will become known and differentiated. And this happens every time, at every new circle, every time after Mahapralaya, Mahamanvantara. And one can say that this strength, this moving strength, without this power, we cannot do. It is always there. It means periodically this power is there, but it is not manifested, then manifested. But it exists all the time. Thank you very much, dear friends, for your presence. I would like to thank, to acknowledge the efforts of our team today, our technical team, Yuri Putin, Alexander Kulishov, Maxim Yegorov, Alexander Brezhnev, and of course, our interpreters who have been there for 2 hours. They are Darin Kasanov and Olga Tomchuk. Thank you very much. You work with this intricate texts that not every interpreter may translate, but you try to find the words in the Russian and in the English language in order to tell and convey the meaning, convey the sense. I hope that our participants in many different countries of the world can enjoy it and you helping them to reveal the sense of the secret doctrine. Dear friends, of course, we will see each other soon, the 11th of November, the 30th. We are going to have another international seminar in the group composed of different Russian and international philosophists and scientists. We will learn the 8th sloka of the first stanza. Once again, I'd like to tell you about the major event that will take place the 27th and 28th of November in Sochi, in Russia. It is the 5th International Theosophical Congress with no analogues in the world, because during this Congress, theosophists and scientists get together and study the secret doctrine. It is a scientific symposium which will be broadcasted live, which is called cosmogenesis, theogenesis, and anthropogenesis. Of course, the event of this level uh, brings other projects with it, and we will sum up the tell about the results of international poetic competition. because the date is very important. It's 190 years of Елена Blavatsky birthday. All the delegates, participants who will come to Sochi, who will be there with us and the live broadcast online, they will be a live mechanism of this perception of these ideas, of the wonderful event, this projection and realization, implementation of the event, which has one big task, the socialization of the name of Yelena Petrovna Blavatsky in the media. The artistic, the art competition will be there. You will be able to visit the wonderful exhibition. This year we had so many applications, so many offers for participation, installations, sculptures, paintings from different parts of the world, from Philippines, from Africa, from Paris, from Australia, from New Zealand, and all the different little parts of Russia, little cities. And we are so happy to see the amount of the young people, children who devote something very dear, something very precious of them, their art, their creativity. And thanks to these events, the name of Helena Petrovna Blavatsky gets socialized. This year, there will be an exhibition of philosophic stone. You will see 10 stones in the cut, especially in order to uh, see the philosophic sense of the Secret Doctrine. Please come to Sochi, visit us online. Please participate in this major event. And now I suggest having a look at the video that we have created in order to let you know about the projects in the framework of the Congress and share our joy with us. So now we tell you goodbye. See you soon. Light and love to everybody. Thank you.